Hey everyone, we'll be starting shortly. I'm getting everything set up, so please bear with me as I do so. Alright. That's these. Connection seems to be good. Everything's being picked up. So I think we can begin. Hi everyone. Welcome to another stream of the Great Ace Attorney. Chronicles. We had left off last time doing the first trial for Mr. Natsume, where we were trying to defend him against killing a woman? A rotund woman who was stabbed in the street on a misty London night. And he was seen by two people. One of them was a policeman, one was his wife. And they specifically say that they saw him, and then they dropped some books, and there were 4 books. We tried to argue that there were only 3. Turns out there was a 4th one. It was one that was the murder victim was holding. She's still alive. She's just in the hospital, just in a coma. But whether she dies or not later, I don't know. Because then it would become murder. But at the moment, it's just attempted murder. And she had a book, but it turns out the book was burned. And it might have been burned inside the Garideb household during a fire when they were fighting over the husband possibly getting a love letter from someone by accident. And the wife believed that it was real. Or at least for him. Anyway, we had managed to persuade the jury not to do not guilty and allow us to do our case the first time, but then again, we have found ourselves in the same situation where everyone on the jury thinks that he's guilty, and we now have to try and convince them that he's not, and to keep going into the trial. Whether we'll be able to do so is up in the air, but we shall find out. Most likely, we'll probably find out something else that makes us go on the back foot, and we have to push back again and see if we can stop Mr. Natsume being convicted for a crime he did not commit. Well, at least I hope he didn't commit it, because it turns out the guy from the previous one might have actually done what we were trying to defend against him for. But who knows at this point. Anyway, that's everything, I believe. We shall see what happens today. Just as a heads up, I am extremely tired. I only got 5 hours of sleep. I went to bed at 11:45 a.m. I am stupid, so that's why I was that. We shall see how it goes. So if I sound, kind of exhausted or tired, that's why. But I'll try my best to do the voices as best I can, as usual, or as I have done in the past. We'll see how we go. So without further ado, let us see what happens. Chronicles. Here we go. I couldn't find the game for a second. And now we're here in the courtroom. See, yep, showing from there, restream. Oh, sounds been picked up. Fresh restream. Again. Yep, everything's showing up. Everything seems to be good. So let us go. Continue. Or I press the any key. If you ever finish a segment and still have time, you should do escapade bonus stories. They are only a few minutes long. The first 2 now, and the third takes place right after the case. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Right. Never been to get into this. Let me just do a quick stretch. I have considered the defense's counsel request for further summation examination of the jury, and I reject you. And I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial rights to the procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination. I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman. We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of this crime. Judicial findings. The jurors' contentions. The accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his. I have to try and bring back my Southern Belle accent. If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? Dearie me, it's only a little rock, hardly life-threatening me with a direct hit. Look, I just want to get this all with. If I don't bring home some tea tonight, I'll be in a tiny bit of trouble. Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. Gave me the sneezes. What has that got to do with anything? Yes, considerably more tangible arguments from all members of the jury this time round, it seems. Except for the old guy. His was just completely unrelated. He was just tired. With one notable exception, of course. There we go. My learned Japanese friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness's testimony. So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused fleeing from the scene. And moreover, no one else is even at the scene to commit the crime. Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way. And that means, I'm afraid, that during the summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. Valaroth? Hello, welcome. But how? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here? Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed that woman and how? Those 2 details are all you need to provide. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted. And here I was thinking this might be hard. Mr. Naohara, you have to do it. Otherwise, this really will be where the trial ends. I think Valaroth has a thing for Van Zeeks. I think everyone has, to be honest. And I can see why, I guess. No pressure then. That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you are prepared, counsel. Oh, yes, my lord. Right, all right, Ryunosuke, focus your mind now. And then his face turned red because he slapped too hard. Clearly key to this summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid. Or should I say Miss Garydeb? Or Mrs. Garydeb. We have a book that disappeared from the Garydeb's household on the evening of the incident. And the 4th book found in the victim's hand. And there must be a way to link the 2. Yes, that's what we have to find. Using every technique I've learned in my short career so far, whatever it takes. But don't forget to keep an eye on Mrs. Garydeb and how she reacts, even to the things other people say. Just tell me how to do it, why don't you? Jury examination. The defense's rebuttal. Let's see what you can say.
Hold it!
But as we know now, there are 4 books, not 3. Well, what difference does it make? There's every possibility that the 4th book in fact belongs to the defendant's landlord. Yes, that's part I have a problem with. Sorry? Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said. That's not exactly how I put it, no. Well, anyway, the point is the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened. I think that's what you call a strong alibi. So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it, which only leaves the Nipponese fellow. Honestly, I can't see what all this palaver's about. It's not a done deal, isn't it? I suppose it is, since I've nothing witty left to say. Just tell him to shut up. That'll fix it.
Hold it!
So, you might be willing to change your decision, you mean? Oh my, such delight on your face, but I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I'm a very modern, metropolitan, and rational woman. That's great. If one reads the modern papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see, modern, metropolitan, and rational thinking, wouldn't you say? And not at all extreme. As I see it, an overwhelming suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelming strong testimony. I suck at doing a Southern Belle accent, Jesus. So despite one of the two minor puzzlements, I do declare the man is overwhelmingly guilty. A modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say? Overwhelmingly. But us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know? So I'd be only happy to consider an exciting new theory if you could come up with one. I'd be happy to do that too, if only I could. Let's do our very best to not disappoint the modern metropolitan. Too many M's! Modern metropolitan young lady. Right. I'm glad you're admitted to rational here. Christoph Gavin. I mean, he's the kind of guy that would be able to do that kind of thing. I think he does his own nails too. No, he does, yeah. I'm thinking of the other guy that he does. Never mind.
Hold it!
But what about the possibility that the window was open? What about it? I mean, there's no way it could have been. How can you be so sure? But the prosecutor fell over there, said it earlier, didn't he? Winters in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. So no, that window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm, see? Even though I sound like I'm from the south of America, I'm a Londoner. You couldn't categorically state that the window wasn't open, could you? It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it. Then what's the point in even having windows, huh? Counsel, you will kind of refrain from childish bickering. Oh, sorry. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility that the window was open. Because this young man isn't gonna budge otherwise. I gotta prove why the window could only have been opened.
Hold it!
But the little book was on fire at the time, was it not? With flames and love, I'll have you know. There's really no such thing as loving incendiary bombs. Well, he brought it upon himself. His plan with fire to portray a fiery love. Isn't it? Well, don't you agree? Well, any kind of betrayal is certainly a bad thing, yes. But I think the argument might have arisen out of your misunderstanding, Mrs. Garrydem. Never you mind that. The point is we're just having a little jovial dispute. Nothing more. I won't have any more of these suggestions that it was anything whatsoever to do with this crime. Stop slapping the guy next to you. He's probably got a red arm by this point. You went through my channel to make sure I went through Apollo Justice. Oh, okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed the videos. If you had watched them. Right, well, we'll see about that. But what about juror number 5? He doesn't seem to be turning a hair at Mrs. Garrydem's relentless onslaughts. It's almost as though he's used to it. What a gentle soul he is.
Hold it!
What, you just can't want to get this over with? How can you sit there and say something like that? A man's future is at stake here. Well, him and me both then, like I said before. What? I told you already. I'm a day labourer, aren't I? If I don't bring home some readies with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames tomorrow morning. What? You heard me. My missus isn't one to mess about, you know. She could be fierce, believe you me. I hate that I say that as well sometimes. The believe you me thing. I hate it. Another shining example of marital bliss, then. Didn't spoil anything you had planned. Oh, great. Cool. Well, thank you. A situation like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, you know, it's funny, I can't quite remember. Sorry? I was too frightened at the thing. I must have blocked it out. Helpful. I wonder if Mr. Beat will ever be dragged into the Thames by a scarf. Don't even go there, Mr. Zato. You're planning his downfall already. There must be some way to jog his memory about this. Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. Maybe this is... Oh, whoops, I meant to press. I pressed the wrong button. We need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman on the street. As well as how he, or she, could have done it. Yes, but once again, the jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. I think you're going to need to pit them against each other to force them to accept an alternative explanation. Yeah. I don't necessarily need to find contradiction between their assertions, just a connection might do the trick. Alright, I'll see what I can do. If anything stands out, in for a strike. Well, that's the spirit. She knows 180 ways to kill a man. I don't doubt that. Go back to the end.
Hold it!
No. Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case? Sorry? What was that? Oh, you'll have to speak up, lad. Could you tell us more about that fire? It was last winter. Our child would bake me a lovely cake on my birthday. 75 candles on the top, it did. What a sight to behold it was. You put candles on a cake? Was it some kind of devil worship? I guess they don't do birthday cakes in Japan at this point. Of course not. It was an angel cake to celebrate my birthday, obviously. It seems that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo. Anyway, I must have mustered all my puff and blow them out. Only I must have blown strong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but candles went flying all over the room. The furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke. Definitely sounds like devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold. But how did you catch a cold from a fire? What a fiasco it was. The grandchildren pressed them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then because the whole room had filled with the smoke, of course, we had to open up all the windows to clear it. The windows? The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. I caught a terrible cold from it. It put me in hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry. I knew it was devil worship all along. Something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason, because it gives us a reason as to why to open the window. And the child attempted drowning by using water. Window closed. Right, so it's you against you.
Objection!
These two jurors' statements clearly contradict one another. They do. How exactly, counsel? Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me. What's that you say? Speak up, lad. Speak up. Juror number 3. Do you see? Oh, me? See what, sir? I had the old man voice for a second there. Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebration last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Oh, well, yes, of course, because it was emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... Oh! Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garadeb household. And Mr. Garadeb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke.
Oh my!
Oh my hat! Quickly, pursue!
Excuse me!
Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? That's the first time that come up in when I was contradicting someone. Mrs. Garrideb. Oh, dearie me. What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now. What is this? When the fire started in your house that day, did you or did your husband open the window? What? I beg your pardon. What are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. And what if we did? Oh, all right then. Yes, you're right. My husband was regularly trying to open the window, which can't have been easy since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battering. Even though your house was on fire? Oh, you never stopped throwing until the anchor subsides. It would be terribly bad with the nerves to do so. Oh, God, woman. Okay. The Van Zeeks hasn't done the leg in over a minute. I've stopped paying attention. Wow, gee, thanks. Of course, I should have realized. That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have added to Mrs. Garrideb's formal statement. Now you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I think you've gotten it to be true. And now I have to use you against you, I probably assume.
Objection!
Nope. It's the first time I get it wrong, I think. These two statements clearly contradict each other.
Hold it!
I'm sorry, but as a foreman of the jury, I have to object. That's complete nonsense. What? I'm a banker, don't you forget, an educated man. And there's no contradiction as far as I can see. Quite so, Mr. Foreman. I will not permit a whimsical attack against the good members of the jury, counsel. There was nothing whimsical about it. It's very important to listen carefully to every juror, Mr. Naruhodo. And then you can decide where the contradiction really lies, if there are any. Well, there you go. It's the first time I failed that. Maybe I push her on it first?
Hold it!
The fourth book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book Mr. Garrideb told us he was reading. Forcing me to draw dice game from mouthwash. Making out with a bottle of mouthwash. Oh! I'm sorry. Okay. Well, I really wouldn't say. On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of The Lion's Pride that he'd been reading? I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. And now you've come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right. Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset? Because I'm an evil woman, don't you see? Because I couldn't, you insolent little man, I didn't remember. Times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on, as well as you know. I really don't. I barely noticed I was throwing a book. Oh boy! Listen to the title of it. Oh,
Excuse me.
What's wrong with you now? What is it, juror number 5? You know something? I've remembered what it was. That memory I blocked out. Okay. I was listening to what that granny was saying. Brought it all flooding back. You're calling her granny, you cheeky devil. It's Mrs. Garrideb, the maid, I'll have you know. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time. It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home after work, like. I put my hand in my pocket for the wages I'd earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out. Oh dear. What a disaster. You haven't heard half of it, boy. The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. All I could do would hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost the day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear, stuck into the wall next to me, it did. About an inch deep. No words, just terror. I could smell it then, you know, the god-awful stench of the Thames. I was sure I was going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I could tell you. Now, that's a real disaster, ain't it? I'll never use the word lightly again. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it. Mr. Naohuru, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. Well, so far, every woman I've met in this game has been exactly that. Except maybe the young girl who was convicted of murdering that guy, my friend, on the boat. No, I wasn't thinking that. Throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. At least attack with honor using a bow or the like. What? Attack? Were you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words would be rather significant, I think. Alright, we'll come back to that bow and arrow thing later, if I dare. An Ace Attorney Metal Gear Rising crossover. Wow. Colonel, I'm trying to defend myself against the lawyers, but my ass keeps clapping. Keeps alerting the guards. Oh, man. All right. A woman in a rage will hurt most. Yes.
Hold it!
Wife really threw a kitchen knife at you? That's right. She was chopping meat with it. Had a tidy edge on it, believe me. Still, it's all memories, isn't it? It started with that smile she threw me when we were courting. Since then, the list of things she's been throwing at me has long grown over our relationship. There was a cup, then a glass, then a pot, a kettle, a chair, a wardrobe, a cooker, a bathtub. Your wife must have been beefier than you. And things came to a head last week when she threw me right into the Thames. Still, she's not so bad when she's calmed down. She's a little sweetheart, really. I'm so happy for you. A Mistral and Monsoon simp. Mistral I can understand, but Monsoon? I really thought it would be, well, I'm trying to remember names from Metal Gear Rising now. Brazilian guy. What's his name? Sam. I think it's Sam. If you want to know what I think this whole idea of ladies first that we were so obsessed with this in the country was thought up by some clever lads who were tossed into the Thames a few too many times by their wives. That's a very interesting theory. What a terrible thought. On the face of it, this juror's statement just sounds like a really extreme anecdote. But I think it might turn out to be an extremely powerful weapon. A weapon I might be able to use to make the jurors accept an alternative explanation here. Okay. I think it might be accused of behind that scene, those 3 books of his. There's a novel explanation of how being stabbed might be considered. I mean, this would confirm this, but I don't know if this is what it meant to be for. But
Objection!
nah, it's not for that.
Hold it!
Skip it all! Being a Jetstream Sam simp is just a given after playing the game. I mean, yeah, to be fair. save just in case this game doesn't have chapter saving like it does with previous prequel trilogy we did. Okay. So it didn't work for this guy. As far as the dire, you have to open windows. Clear the smoke. That's what you get. I mean, I didn't really question this guy on his change. So let me go back to him.
Hold it!
At the point when the victim was attacked on Briar Road, we know that there was a small house fire in the Garrideb household on the opposite side of the street. Well, yes, it certainly seems that way. And on the account of the smoke, I can imagine that would have been hard had the windows wide open in spite of the cold. We also know that Mrs. Garrideb was throwing flaming books at her husband. Her husband, who was backed into a corner by the window due to his wife's frenzied attack. Yes, that's right. So there's definitely a chance that one of the books could have been thrown past the man out of the window. Only what? Only I can't really see how it could have gone all the way down over to the other side of the road. That's all. So I don't really see how I can change my decision, really. Oh, I see. That wasn't enough? What is it going to take to persuade these people? Some novel alternative explanation about the hidden victim was stabbed. I might be considered. I don't think I have that yet. What if... Okay, what if we could put this with how the way the woman was stabbed could have been? Because then we could say, like, well, she might have thrown a knife, and that went out the window and stabbed her in the back.
Objection!
Yeah! Those two statements clearly have a deeply significant connection. Good grief. You mean they don't contradict each other? Explain yourself, counsel, at once. Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative? Oh my, whatever do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back. What are you talking about? We've demonstrated the 4th book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garrideb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other objects besides the book could have found its way from Mr. Garrideb's household to the street below. Ew, what's that now? After all, Mrs. Garrideb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole? Beginning to think that, ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she had a feeling this might be what happened. No, listen here, you Eastern Gala. As the foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house. What was it? I'm really taking a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't any real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garrideb's household to the scene of the crime was...
Take that!
Juror number 4, Mrs. Garrideb. What now? The one quote has made my Nintendo Switch name Beanpole for over a year. Come on, Beanpole, we're going to play some amazing games today. Oh. I must apologize in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before? Good Lord, Counsel, what on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged in the victim's back, man. My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Garridev were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Garridev was hurling anything she could at her husband, who even backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene. You can't seriously believe that. The book was found in the victim's grasp. Grasp? Question. That's an exclamation point. Are you saying that it flew out the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand? Huh? Even my missus hasn't got an aim like that. Yes, I admit there are many details we don't yet understand. But that's the point. That's precisely why. We must not allow this trial to end. Not right now. Oh, my. I need my medication. Mrs. Garridev, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Oh, she did. My lord. Oh, it's you. I wish to change my decision. I'm a woman of my word, after all. Thank you, madam. Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but I'm surprised you're willing to change your mind. I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions. Mr. Foreman? I'd have to agree. Not that I think that the granny did it, mind. Yes, you know what, I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either. All together now, ladies and gents. But the old man's not changing his mind. It's enough. We did it. Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo. So, as a result of the defense's summation examination, a number of jurors leading has changed. 2 jurors called guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided. And this trial will continue. Now to go home. Well, this man just pulled it out of his butt again. Just casually putting my switch code into a public stream chat. You don't have to put it publicly if you... Maybe a private message or something if you can. I don't want you getting in trouble or something like that. I mean, I won't put you in trouble because I'm the master of chat. What is that? But yeah. Obviously no one can actually see it on stream, but live maybe. Now then, Lord Van Zeeks, how does the prosecution wish to proceed? He's taking a drink. This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. Like a corked wine, the first sips are bitter enough. But what follows is so repugnant it's good for nothing save the gutter. If I may, Lord Van Zeeks, the defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened. Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond. Let me start by insisting that you must have all familiarized yourself better with the relative positions of those places being discussed. What do you mean by that? What's his angle this time? It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Garridev household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means that the distance from the Garridev's house to the scene is some 50 yards. Let me see. 15 yards. That's around 14 meters. 14 meters? Oh, that's a little farther than I imagined. And, as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury rightly noted as having portentous significance, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smouldering book wantonly hurled by the ladies of the house traveled some 50 yards to land on the opposite side of the road, in between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? follow a near-identical trajectory to plunge into the middle of the victim's back. This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. There's nothing I can say to that. That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice. Susano. Serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he? Maybe let's pick our battles here? My lord, might I be allowed to speak? As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense. Yes, go ahead. The prosecution may consider the idea fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leanings. And as such, the court has a duty to explore the alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, juror number 4, Miss Joan Garrison, must be called to testify and submit to cross-examination. Saints alive! Cross-examination of a juror? Order, order, order! Well, this is highly irregular. It is unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned with the witness stand.
Objection!
Bye! Whee! It's a random person in the audience. And unnecessary. Lord Van Zeeks. There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If learned friend's farcical theory has any truth in it, then both a burning book and a jackknife might have thrown for the sky before the couple's eyes. And we must assume they would be able to justify accordingly. What say you, witnesses? Yes, sir. Constable Rolly Beat reporting for duty, sir. Well, good morning, officer. Sorry for dozing off until now. Sir, I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir. Oh, they're so heroic, these London bobbies. Ah, yes, the heroic London bobbies. Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, no more. Oh, Rolly, my hero, you make me swoon. Whoever captures the wine bottle is the next victim of the Reaper. Very well, I hereby reject the defense's request. Oh. And order the witnesses in the stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events. Yes, sir. Constable Beats report. Well, this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrison. Believe me, a London bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows of the top floor of the garage house are top hinges casements. Obviously, if anything had thrown out the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eyes off the scene at the for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Well, this is quite startling. Top-hinged casement windows. That detail was not in the police report, Constable. Constable? Ah, yeah, sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy. Oh. You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable. No, sir! Sorry, but... what exactly is a top-hinged casement window? And you... You cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course. Sorry. I've found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mrs. Garridem's room. Alright, I'll try. I go into my mind palace and see the past. I should get a clear look at this window, though. Look at the low poly models, jeez. So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. But as it's a top-hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see. I'm glad you rectified your ignorance. The casement window's most prominent feature is its stay, metal bar. Or a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. It prevents it opening. That's all news to me. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or knife were to have been thrown out the open window, you would have to lean out of it. You would have clattered against the pane and leaned straight down to the pavement below. No. See the problem then. Good. Your education in windows is complete. There was never any possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered, something we discounted already. That can't be! Are we going to immediately go back into freaking everyone on the jury hating us again? Or being the guilty? Did you see that, Rolly? That young Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Oh, yes, darling, I saw it. I saw how he crumbled before me. Oh, Rolly, you're so strong. Come on, get off it. How is this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed. Counsel, if you would drag yourself upright again, the court awaits your cross-examination. My lord. Oh, good. Another desperate situation. Yo!
Hold it!
How can you say that for certain? A very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it, and as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? I can't say I remember. That was last stream. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. It's what the job's all about. And that's why I could stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you a Bobby's good for his word. While rubbing my tired eyes admittedly. Sir! Oh, Rolly, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett? Oh, I see, sir. You should have said so earlier, sir. Yes, well, so could you answer the question? It's a waste of time, then. Absolutely, sir. I'll waive it. Answer to the fullest of my ability, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garrett too many deeps. Domestic dispute can be related to this case. And the emote button. Before I get to that, sir, just one thing. Yes? I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London bobbies and how we uphold our guiding principles. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here. So to that end, sir, I'll be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. But I must warn you, won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears. Or shedding. Thank you. I'll try. Constable Beats warrant card been added to the record. Let's have a look at this card. Policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allotted beat. A patrolling officer expects to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of communal relations. Any items fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered, or any crimes. Why don't raid any items? Item 2. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives.
Hold it!
By which you mean they don't open fully, is that correct? Yes, sir. They're just there to allow a bit of air through the house, you see. They're so restricted as to how much they open. And therefore, anything thrown out the window from inside the room. Just simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here is the location where objects would have fallen. Yes, directly opposite the scene of the crime on the other side of the rather wide road. Would it have been so hard for somebody to mention this top-hinge casement thing before? Well, I have another question for you, Constable. And what would that be, sir? How do you even know? Why would that you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Garridev's house is furnished with? Ah, well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday. Uh-oh. What's wrong with you?
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, Mrs. B? Oh, sorry. You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that? Oh, I was just remembering. That's all. We really were so lucky. Lucky? What do you mean? Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were just so lucky we didn't happen on Rowley's... It didn't happen on Rowley's beat. It was so close, you see. Oh, I hadn't realized. Oh yes, that street, Briar Road, that's the boundary between Rowley's beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love? Constable B. Huh? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's the reason why I was helping out with the interviewing the occupants of the Garrideb household yesterday. Their house is on my beat, you see, sir? It really was cutting it close then. Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garrideb household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it is as well? I haven't seen this side. Like, it's usually the side or, like, front view. This is, like, from an angle, so it's different. I like it. Outside Mr. Garrideb's house? Yes, ma'am. Pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat. I see. I was unaware of that. Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of Briar Road, we would never have been able to go for that meal I celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a bobby, after all. Extraordinary people are bobbies. Tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners. Why are they going so hard on this? Like, oh yeah, the London bobbies are the best in the world. They weren't. Especially back then. Tried their best, don't get me wrong. Anyway, as I was saying, especially back then when there was, you know, a guy going around killing prostitutes, and there were a lot of other murders, and they couldn't stop, you know, riots and stuff. You know what I think? I think it was good Lord's way of rewarding May Raleigh for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling? That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record. Leave it to me, Mr. Narrow. I'll take care of it immediately. Case files information has been updated. The pavement where the victim was found lies just outside Constable Beat's beat, the border of which runs down the middle of the Briar Road. So, it could be that the police officer picked up the items, which might implicate them in planting evidence at that point. Possibly even being suspects. And now it's my turn, I think.
Hold it!
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark. Oh, but Rowley and I were just strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for a lucky star. Sorry? The star that will guide us to our eternal happiness. Can't it guide you to answer the question? If a flaming book had cut across the sky in front of us, it wouldn't have lit up like a shooting star. Or it would have. And if I had seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Rolly be an inspector, I would have said, 3 times at least. Of course, with that smog and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars. In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you? Yes, sir, that's correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir. It certainly seems like they're telling the truth. She is pretty much this, like, Susanoo, for this game, is pretty much the, Phoenix Wright's daughter of this game. Oh, why am I can't draw a name. It's not Penny. Why don't you think it's Penny? Magician girl. I literally played the game just a few months ago. Why am I forgetting her name? But you get what I'm saying. It certainly seems like they're telling the truth. And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her. No, not Maya. It's like actually Phoenix Wright's like adopted daughter, who's also Apollo's sister. Trucy, there it is. Yeah, there we go. I got it eventually. Thank you. Because Trucy in Apollo Justice pretty much carried that entire game. She solved everything. Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer, is that right? That's right, yes. If I had been on Riley's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course. Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat. So Rolly told me the way, only I sort of got a little lost on the way. Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pet. Oh, Rolly. Stop fawning over each other. We're in a court of law. Oh, please. So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. But like I said, Minnie Rolly was at the scene of the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed. I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir. I didn't take my eyes off the crime, blah, blah, blah. Actually, that's wrong, because she said that you fell asleep. I don't think I have that statement, though. I have to actually, like, question about it.
Hold it!
Nothing to report. That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time. Never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene, and nothing else was removed from it. I can swear that on the yard's honor, sir. Really? That seems a little strange. Beg your pardon, sir? Strange, sir? Seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of the Lion's Pride was originally in the Garridev's household. So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hands of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time? Aha! Could it have been a different copy, sir? One that happened to be burnt as well? Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As you can see from the this pose in the photograph, Frank, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene. That's so. There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how the knife ended up in her back and how the book ended up in her hand. There must be a common thread between them. Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell. What? I wasn't really. I mean, what's she doing? Please, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. You might see me as the wife of the policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am. I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you. No excuses. I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you? Yes, Mrs. Beat, I'll allow you to spread your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one. That's a very loud mutter. I heard that. That Japanese man thinks the policeman's wife's word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Rolly won't. Duly noted, Mrs. B. Please, I humbly ask you to continue. What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder? I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though.
Hold it!
Mrs. B, nobody is questioning what you've told us. I saw it, I did, that evening. I saw it clearly. That little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curved back, slinking away from the scene. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky. All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction. Oh, yes. Well, that's a little embarrassing, really. I'm always ending up in the wrong place when I've made arrangements to meet Rolly. He gets ever so cross. Oh, no. His anger is building.
Excuse me.
Constable B, is there a problem? No, sir. No problem, sir. Did your wife's remark just now bring something to your mind, perhaps? Oh, well, in a way, sir, yes, sir. I was just remembering that same thing happening that evening is all. You mean Mrs. Beat lost her way on the night of the incident? Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box on the next beat over from mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes. But my darling was long gone, a good 15. Oh, Rolly, you're such a tease. But the reason I was so long was because of the bouquet, silly. The bouquet? Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about? Oh, it's a present for our wedding anniversary. Well, he's so romantic. He gave me wolfsbane, the most poisonous flower I could get, and I love it. He saved up for the farthings and halfpennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds. Yes, how romantic. I'd forgotten all about it until just now. Had you, darling? Oh, yes. But that was just between us. No talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise. Really? Oh. What was that all about? Constable Beat looked very obviously troubled during that exchange. I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Miss Beat about the bouquet. Mrs. Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned. I'd like you to add the details about it to your testimony, please. Oh, really? I'd love to. Van Zeke might know something about this. He's like, wait a minute, they didn't tell me about bouquet. This is important evidence. I hate these people. They will die now. Dropped my bouquet and ended up nosing my way a while. Oh,
Hold it!
you mean you dropped the bouquet on the scene of the crime? Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back, I was so shocked I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice it first. And then you went to the police box to report the policeman whose beat it was on. Yes, I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again. But the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all. In case you need reminding, the victim is not deceased. I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road. Your husband, presumably. And that's right, silly me, I'd gone over the whole wrong side of the street. Although I'm going to blame the bouquet this time, and I can't think of how it got there. I really can't. So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of the Briar Road to the opposite. Curious indeed. I'm getting the feeling that they were actually on the opposite side of the road, and then the police officer moved them to the opposite side so that it wouldn't be on his beat, so he could then still go on his food date with his wife. Isn't it? But the worst of it is, I forgot to pick up the bouquet again after when we left the scene. A beautiful rose Rolly bought me, with that change from the gutter that he spent along so long collecting. By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry solitary rose? Oh! Oh! My voice went weird there. Yes, that's it. That's the bouquet Rolly brought me for our anniversary with the old bits of change he found in the gutter. Maybe just call it a rose. Tell us, Lord Renzigs, where did you come upon by the flower? According to the report... wrong voice. According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Gary Deb household. In front of the Gary Deb's house? Although it wasn't noticed until the morning as I lay on where the street lamp cast no light. It was believed to have no relation to the case, as it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare. Oh, thank you, sir, thank you. Could I have it back now, please? Sorry, it's evidence now. No, I think for a good measure, this rose should be added to the court record as evidence. Oh. Anniversary bouquet has been entered to the court record. Present for Patricia Beat from the husband Rolly. The shock of seeing the stab victim caused Mrs. Beat to drop the rose from where she stood. But it's a symbol of our love. I want it back after the trial. Do you hear me? I want it back. Good grief. Rest assured I'll do my very best not to forget Mrs. Beat. And then she killed everyone. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. That is incorrect, sir. Let me have a look at this rose first, just in case it has anything on it, though. An English rose. It's such a beautiful flower. But this is a rose, is it? I've never seen one before. You're not taking interest in flowers, Mr. Naruhodo. I wouldn't say that exactly, but I do know 3 types at least. Gosh, 3? Yes, plum blossom, peach blossom, and cherry blossom. Perhaps you should consider branching out, learning some that aren't fruit tree based, for example. It's a very stylish paper the flower wrapped in, isn't it? It's just an old newspaper, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, I suppose it's because I'm not used to seeing English print. It looks so exotic to me. I see. Is something wrong? Oh, no. I'm just thinking that if you wrapped a stone-baked sweet potato in English newspaper, it might look like some sort of fancy cake. Susan, you do love your cakes. She does? That was never brought up, but sure. You know, usually when you find something, it makes it, have a tick on it, but for some reason it's not doing it here. They modeled this flower really well, like Jesus. Blooming flower in the New World is the best character theme. If there's anything red on this, I will not see it, so just be aware of that. I don't see anything that stands out, really. It seems to be just like a normal flower and wrapped up in newspaper. Trying to see if I can find the point where they say it was on the opposite side. If it was on this side, it would have been for Bobby speed. But it is Godot. Oh, I'm not Godot. If I remember correctly, the only way I found out that they were on the opposite side of the road was because of the questioning. It might be better to do it here, maybe? I've been through out the window, we would have seen it. I did leave this to go fetch, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. Dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while. I did take my eyes on the crime scene for one moment, nothing strange to report on that front side. I think it might be this one.
Objection!
Yeah, I figured as much. You claim, Constable Beak, that there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene. But that cannot be. What do you mean to say? In your testimony just now, Mr. Beak, you explained that to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection!
The opposite side of Briar Road where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that meager bouquet, if a single sorry bloom could be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs. Meager?
Objection!
But if that were the case, why did Constable Pete not testify to the fact? Yeah, eat that! No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. Constable Pete swore to that on Scotland Yard's honour. But the bouquet belonged to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why Rolly didn't mention it, I'm sure. No, because sadly, it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Mrs. Beat Bouquet, there's Mr. Garrideb's book. Mr. Garrideb's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out the window by his wife, who would have struck the pane of the casement window and landed here on the west side of the street. And yet, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in which the victim's hand, or in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Mrs. Beat Bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime on the east side of the street. But in fact, it was actually found here on the opposite side, in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moved them. What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Rolly's done something wrong. What did I listen to that squirrely lawyer says? Wondering on about books and bouquets. Why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it is. Oh, good. Mrs. Garrideb's come around. You might call it nitpicking, Mrs. Garrideb. But deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offence. It's called, tampering, Mr. Naruhodo. But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it. For a very subtle and compelling reason.
Objection!
Tampering. You barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend, who would have possibly have had the cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person. Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime? Like I said, it's the husband. Is either the husband or the wife, but I'm going to go with the husband because she went off.
Take that!
Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rawley Beat, it was you. What? A policeman? Member of Scotland Yard? What nonsense. Why would Rawley do something like that? There's no one straighter than my husband. Nobody works more tirelessly for the people of London. Mrs. B, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it. You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about the Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it.
Objection!
If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it. Oh. And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene. Well...
Objection!
First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife. Now you incriminate a policeman as well. I will point out that the first one was true. Your accusations lack one important thing. You claim the crime scene was tampered with. But there is only one reason anyone would commit such a reckless crime. To hide something. That's right, he's right. Just catch you on chat for a second. Both mix of wine given his collection of vintages. I have a 1517 Chateau Red. My husband and I just happened to be there, that's all. So why would he have anything to hide? It doesn't make sense. You've offered no motive for his alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats. Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair. Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery? Counsel, you have made a very serious accusation against a London police officer. If you are mistaken, I'm sure I need not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged because you said one thing about one guy who's a police officer. With that stark warning in mind, you will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering. Yes, my lord. Constable Beat's motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell. Where the victim fell to the ground. That is what this body had to cover up. Oh, at all costs. What? Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road. We saw it happen, remember? It was right here, as if anyone didn't already know. That's certainly what everybody has been led to believe. But in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all. What? What? I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, counsel. If that is your assertion, then the court is then dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing the crime actually took place that evening?
Take that!
But that's the opposite side of the road. I don't understand. On the evening in question, Mr. Garadev's book fell directly from the open window above, and your bouquet, Mrs. B, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself. What? I was delayed in reading that.
Objection!
Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. These witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place. But that's right, I saw it with my own eyes. It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was the typical London fog on the ground. When you saw the incident unfold and ran the victim's aid, that was really actually on the west side of Briar Road. No, that's not true. It can't have been. Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime. He moved all the things shown in this print, the victim himself, the 4 books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road. Extraordinary. But the constable overlooked one thing. What? What did he overlook? Okay, I presume. Exactly. The prosecution told the court just a few months ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Zeek said it wasn't noticed until the morning as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. Yes, it could be seen in the dark, obviously. Which is why it's the bouquet that was found in its original position on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. And that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond? Constable Rowley Beat. Oh, well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important? Oh, Rowley. It isn't true, is it? What the lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know. I had a dream. A terrible dream. All the things I did that night. Everything come out. Everything exposed. Only it seems it wasn't a dream at all. Good golly! Order, order! What on earth is the meaning of all this? Oh, Rowley, why? Why would you do something like this? Moving a corpse is a criminal offense, isn't it? Wishing the victim dead should be one too. Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London town. I can't say, sir. What? I really am ever so sorry about all this. For damaging the Yard's reputation. For everything. I have a possible explanation. He's like, you do? I can't think of anything. This is madness. For why on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason. What? How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman. Just specifically a Scotland Yard policeman. Anyone else would be fine, but a policeman? How could you? And yet, Lord Van Zeek is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. Unlike you. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear the extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please. Yes, my lord. Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence. At once, my lord. England, Japan. It makes no difference where you're from. Human emotions are the same. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions. What gives away the motive for the Constable Beat's unthinkable actions? I think it's going to be this.
Take that!
Is this piece of evidence here, you see? I do not see. Nah, I chose the wrong one. I'm sorry to say that I don't.
Objection!
What I would like to know, my learned friend, is the motive for your unthinkable actions. By which I mean the abysmal response. Maybe I was too unthinking? England, Japan, it makes no difference where you come from, Naruto. Human emotions are the same. That's what I was thinking, yes. And I think you have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind Mr. Constable Beat's actions, don't you? You seem to have a good idea of my own thoughts and feelings, Mr. Sato. Perhaps too good an idea. It's like we're married or something. But well, I heard you muttering to yourself before, you see. Skip. Yes, I know. Because the thing is, like, it was either going to be the, this, because it specifically states that the border of the beat is on the opposite side. But I guess I need the other one, which is maybe the rose. Either going to be the rose or something else. But, yeah, rose.
Take that!
I realize that I'm a foreigner in this land, and I have only just arrived from Japan. Which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learned that, though honourable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example. Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on those beat in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt that the young bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly. But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special. Special? How? On account of this bouquet, my lord. Oh, yes. It was our first wedding anniversary. Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal. When he and Mrs. Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapse on the pavement ahead of him, what must have gotten through the man's mind? Wait, is this me or him? But sir, I said on that particular day I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat put this up with a lot of being married to a bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. Naruhodo accusations are disgusting. This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend it to me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Aha! Constable Beat. Is that not the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day? Yes. Everything you said is all right. So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat. Oh, wrong voice. Oh, it still sounds terrible. Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat. Good gracious! Constable, do you realize the gravity of what you've done? It was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God. Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could still be lurking somewhere. As we ran over to investigate the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was lying, and what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why have this to happen here? And why tonight of all nights? why. And then I killed them. It's a copper's job to guard the scene of the crime, so I told Pat that she had to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then that, when I opened my mouth to speak, it just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the next beat this is the next beat to mine, Pat. So you'll have to go to the police box that covers it. Turn right along Majorshepard Street and then... do a backflip. His Terminate's obsession was teenager girls' assistants. Hey, that's more Japan's thing. But yes. He's so sad. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, Constable. I just wanted to just that one night to take my Patricia out for dinner. Oh, Rolly. Just that one night. You knew that if the incident was on your hands, your evening of celebration would be ruined. So you decided to move the entire crime scene just outside your jurisdiction. Just across the street to the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighbouring beat's care. You see, I thought... I mean, to be fair, out of those people, I think Athena's the oldest. I mean, when they first do it. Maya gets older when Athena's then the assistant. But yes, I get your point. They're all teens, in quotation marks. You see, I thought... Well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see. I beg your pardon? Oh, of course he did. Otherwise, my Rolly would never have left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement. Ah, I see your meaning now. But God got my back for my sins, didn't he? That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat. Oh no, Rolly, that was my fault. I should never have dropped it in a dark place. I'm so sorry, Rolly. And can you tell us, Constable, how many books did you move from the one side of the road to the other in total? Huh? Oh, 4 it was. Yes, sir, definitely. 4. The 3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsumi, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garideb household, of course. But what made you place the book in the victim's hand? And all the others were scattered around haphazardly around, I mean. Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. How you found it? What do you mean? When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding? Oh, yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir. Ah, interesting. It was the victim's hand when Mrs. Beat first ran over to see what had happened. I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only 2 people at the scene, and Pat and me both saw it happen. However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off who had done it, I thought. I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference. I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it. My lord. Yes, Lord Van Zeeks. I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw. Yes, sir. Mr. Prosecutor, sir. What will become of my Rolly? What will happen to him? From now. You are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course. Please, don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late. Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired. All right then, my love. One last thing, Constable. Sir? Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you. Yes, sir. Carve that lesson into your mind. And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime. Never again, sir? You mean to say? Leave now. This trial is not yet over. Yes, sir! Van Zeeks is a nice guy! Yeah! Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Who's more gay, Aura Blackwell or the first defender of the next game? Are you asking me? I don't know about the next game. Well, I guess Aura Blackwell. Whoever thought that a third party translating the entire scene of a crime like that? Indeed, my lord. Unless there are some immutable facts here, principally. But they accuse Mr. Seki Natsumi as the only person who could have possibly committed this crime.
Objection!
No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could have been responsible for the knife in the victim's back. Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already. Lord Van Zeeks, is this true? Very well. Name the person if you will, and if further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing. For today, or what? You will name this other person who could have perpetrated the crime. Sure, but let me save first, because I think I know who it is, but I just want to be safe on this. It was Natsume all along!
Take that!
The defense would say once again to like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again. My assistant made the same request earlier. In order to finally reveal the truth about this case. It's imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Miss Joan Garideb. Me? Me? Oh, dearie me.
Objection!
That request has already been denied.
Objection!
But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Garideb, answer me this. What do you want now, you little toad? At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garideb. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited. And to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks over Priory Road. Well, what of it? You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open-top hinged casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident. Yes, and as I said, what of it? During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garideb. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before? Oh. I mean, she fainted before. I think it pretty much proves that it's hers, or at least her family's. I don't recall it. Seriously? am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there is on that regalia said members of the jury need to testify, didn't he? Conveniently, yes.
Objection!
Okay. No, I have no recollection of saying that at all. Juror number 4. Oh! Make no mistake. Your jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out. But that's just common garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home. If one went missing, how would you expect me to know? What's that? Are you joking? What are you saying, please, Mrs. Garrideb? I don't know who's saying this, but no, you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't believe the thought that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. Oh, the poor woman. Poor her? Who cares about her? We're trying to prove our guy's innocence right now. And she's being really unhelpful and actually being a hindrance to the case. She should be put in freaking print, like, kicked out of court because she's literally holding up the trial. Oh, that poor woman. So, yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist it's being this my fault. You're going to have to prove to me that I threw the knife and that's what you think. Come along now, chop chop. Do your worst. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, if I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. Then take the stand, juror. Oh. The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. He's fully on this now. He's like, I hate this woman. She's going to answer for what she done. Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. I'm going to have to testify. Juror number 4. As I'm sure you will appreciate having observed with your own eyes today, witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Truths of which the witnesses themselves may not even been aware. Oh, dearie me. So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garrideb. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Like a tooth. Do you concur, counsels? Certainly, my lord. Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord. Dramatic music. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here, in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer. He's becoming the lawyer he was meant to be. I like this song. Witness, state your name and occupation. Oh, yes, my name is Joan Garrideb. And I'm a juror and such like. It sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid, or what anymore. The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. You understand, madam? Yes, my lord. You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth. Oh, dear me. She's actually scared. Yeah, scare that woman. Kick her ass. As you can tell, I don't like her. Oh, chin up, Joni. Nothing to worry about now. The old man's here. Oh, I didn't know you were here, John. You can't just come on the stand like this. It wasn't only you in the room, old thing, was it? Rather think I ought to testify as well, don't you? But what about your knee, dear? Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone. Oh, John. I presume you are Mr. John Garrideb. Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Seen my fair share of action and growing, and now living the quiet life, as it were. You're not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse in the day in question. Well, yes. Quite. I believe they may represent a first in the proud history of the British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. Sir, at once! The Battle of Garrideb. Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out, though, and the window got open. While I was picking up whatever I could find and throwing it. Plenty of knives around the place. Can't say I'd noticed if 1 or 2 of them went missing, I'm afraid. If that bally thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, you'll have a job proving it, I think. It sounds as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening. Though an entirely one-sided assault, it seems. The enemy caught me off us on the hop, sir. Had no choice to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Of course, a veteran such as myself is only too aware that on every battlefield you're just a gnat's whiskers from a death at any moment. Are we talking about a martial quarrel here? A marital, not martial? Well, I must say I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of that jackknife. In combat, one's focus narrows such that surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end. Van Zeeks may well be right. Well, whatever the chances, we only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. God, I hope so. Yes, I'm afraid so. Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination. Cross-examination time. I will reveal the truth.
Hold it!
The reason is what you taught us yesterday, I believe. Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was tucked into the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Garrideb. A rather passionate note, in fact. But Mrs. Garrideb found the note, discovering her husband's little secret. And she gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it, too. What sordid state of affairs? Hell on earth. I say, when a chap says he can't recall such things, it's common decency not to drag it all up. And besides, half of it was wired on the mark anyway. Unlikely story. These waters run very deep. And what transpired after the multiple blows to the face?
Hold it!
And the fire also spread to some of the furniture items. Items on furniture, didn't it? Well, the bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine, really. It just so happens that there was some bathwater around that evening, so I sloshed that about to put it out. A most precarious situation you put yourself in. Ours is a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street, where the water main isn't connected yet. Have to draw water from a public tap pump during the day if you need any, as you see. Well, not as they're always moaning if they can't get any water at night. Although, that little mustached Japanese man buys water in bottles, I believe. The defendant, Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, he receives a stipend for his studies, you know, from his home country. Can you imagine being able to brew a pot of tea at all hours? He's obviously very well off. books. Have you actually seen the state of the man? I believe he uses all of his income to buy books. Well, anyway, the point is, I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough. Picking up whatever I can find and throw
Hold it!
Even though the room was on fire, as far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw. That is most certainly not true of a Susana takedown, Mr. Naruhodo. How did she know I was thinking that? So, please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at the husband, or at your husband that day? In all honesty, I don't recall. But I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, cabbage, garlic, towel, a sponge,
By
a napkin.
Jupiter! Excuse me!
What do you got? What do you got for me, Moon Man? Do you have something to add, sir? Mr. Garadeb. Don't shoot! Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Did your wife remark just now bring something to mind? Nothing out of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in mean direction was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire poker, I seem to recall. Ow. And the woman's aim is uncanny, and she landed a direct hit with every volley. Ah! Good grief, woman, we're not at home now. This is a court of law. Oh, dearie me. Ever so sorry, dear. She poured it into his pipe. What's she even doing with a teapot in here? Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you, obviously. Well, take a good look at this, then. How do you suppose this happened, Your pipe, sir. Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did, yes. And when I went to pick the thing up, it broke in two. I'd like to see a sponge do that sort of damage. I see your pipe was broken. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I managed to bandage the thing up for now. You're wanting to exaggerate, aren't you, dear? I wonder what we should make of this account. It could be important, it could be insignificant. If it brings me this option, it's usually important. The defense believes Mr. Garadev's remarks just now to be of great significance.
Objection!
This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife, and pipes, as well as hearts, may be broken. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worth of adding to the formal testimony. Indeed, common sense, one might say. Might one? In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir? Well, I don't see why not. Oh, dearie me, there you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady. Literally just said, can I have a look at the pipe? Sure, why not? Oh my God, you're flirting with her. Shut up. Oh God, I'm hating this woman more and more. Very well, the court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence. Pipe has been added. Apparently it fell to the floor during a domestic dispute. I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down. Oh no, it's fine. Thanks to Susano-san, we might have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully. Very well, thank you for that. Rebuttal, Mr. Garadeb. If you will return to the crux of the matter. What can you tell us about the court, about the knife that used in the attack of your victim? I bet it's going to turn out that... Wait a minute, there's a metal shard in here! From the knife! There's a small nick out of the bowl here. Look, it appears to have been made relatively recently. And see how there's little strips of dents all over it? It's clearly a well-loved pipe. Yes, you're right. It seems to me recently that being well loved goes hand in hand with getting some battle scars. This particular nick is catching my eye though, because it's clearly new. It looks to be a sorry state with that bandage around it, doesn't it? But for some reason, it feels slightly ominous to me, like it's trying to shout out a warning. Probably because it's the same blue as Mr. Garrideb's dressing gown. I suppose it must have considered sentimental value to Mr. Garrideb, given that he's gone to the trouble of repairing it like this. Either that, or he can't afford to replace it. Oh my god! I was joking! Oh, something just twinkled inside the chamber of this pipe here. That's a huge piece of metal! It's not even small! Yes, I saw it. There's something stuck in there, I think. Let's turn it over and give it a shake. What's this? A tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade? Surely it couldn't be. Fragment of the metal has been entered into the court record. I have got to... I don't know how I have these magic abilities to just know when things are going to happen. I guess because I've come across this so much, I'm like, oh, I know where this is going to reference. I just somehow figure out the plot to the story. This is a tiny piece of metal we found in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade? Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? I don't really know. There's just something niggling me, but I can't quite put my finger on what it is. Perhaps it's this case. It would be wise to examine some of the other pieces of evidence again. Now, do I have to in order to combine it, or can I just be like, actually, this piece belongs to the knife? I don't know if I would do it on this one or I'd do it on the next one. It would be this one. Yeah, you'll be job proving it, I think.
Objection!
Here you go. Told you you're not allowed to make predictions. Mr. Garrideb, well, can I ask you to take a look at this, please? You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing. You can't? You used to call me Dead-Eyed Deb back in the day in the regiment, of course, but that was some time ago now. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days. I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest. Wear glasses, then. Oh, he does, dearie me. It's rather wearing to being asked about every other letter and every other word. You must... What? You must be very dizzy. I know he's trying to say very busy, but he's changing the letters round, but my brain just could not process that. What is that? A tiny scrap of metal. Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe. My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got in there. What precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting that it is in some way related to the matter of the stabbing on Briar Road? I am. What? When you put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord. What happened to his butt? I just noticed that. Did his butt also catch on fire? You appear rather confident on the extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well then, present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, allegedly reveals the truth of this entire case?
Take that!
This is the knife that was found in the victim's back. If you look closely, you'll see that there is a small piece at the tip of the blade that is missing. A common issue with inferior blades sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in their victims' bones. And what of this particular knife? No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim.
Objection!
No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe. Good grief. Oh, wrong voice. Good grief. Lord Van Zeeks? I don't believe it. It's like he's been shot. He's doing a freaking Von Karma thing. I won't tell you there's a bullet in my shoulder. The knife of the crime scene, this fragment of metal. A perfect match. Good golly gosh. Good idea, Batteroff. Go have the lunch. Order! Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery? No. This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle. A miracle. So Van Zeeks has figured it out, has he? Counsel, explain the extraordinary coincidence at once. Yes, my lord. The crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is when did the fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Garrideb's pipe? Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony. I had this bally thing in my hand as the usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did. Yes. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. So jiggly. Oh, dearie. Me. During the argument between those two occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Garrideb flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Garrideb, instead striking the pipe in his hand at the time, which caused the tip of the to break off, of course. Good lord! Yes, and that is when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Garrideb's pipe. The chances of that are 1,000,000 to 1. Never tell me the odds. And yet there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended in your pipe, unless she just snapped it off intentionally. And then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out the open window. In short, this knife, which fell from the window of the Garrideb's house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below. Oh gosh, oh dear, oh no!
Objection!
A full-bodied theory, I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument. Sorry? But after all, it is just a theory. A game theory. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because you see... Leg time! It's spoilt by an insurmountable inconsistency. Insurmountable? What? Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself. What is it inconsistency you claim to have identified? Inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with a knife planted in the middle of her back. Yes, in her... That's right, you silly little man. Now, Joan, old thing, what are you getting so excited about? Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking around the pavement long before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. If the knife that struck her had fallen from above, there's no possible way to have planted itself into the victim's back. I already know how this is going to go. Come on, yes. Order! Right, that's exactly right. If the knife had fallen from her above, it would have struck her on the top of her head. Stop slapping him! Well, he's lost for words, look. I knew it. I never liked Theory in the first place. I don't know, though, what really did happen. It would appear the defense had rather a spectacular blunder. If a theory has one inconsistency it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is a theory. I suddenly pose. I conjure a fireball to launch at you. We were so close. I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now the way has been blocked completely by just one simple inconsistency. Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate the one inconsistency and the theory will stand. Mr. Zado, you mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. You were just caught off guard, that's all, and your mind went blank. But if the path you were on is indeed correct, then a way will present itself. The key to this is in the court record, I'm sure. All the information you need is there. It seems you have nothing to say, my Nicole's friend. Well, your silence speaks volumes. Tacit acceptance that your theory is fatally flawed. Objection!
Objection!
This inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. Are we gonna get Mind Palace? Please? It's a test. Yes. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way that it could have hit her in the middle of the back. I know it probably doesn't have this in here, but yeah. I really like the Mind Palace parts, okay? Under normal circumstances, that is. What are you implying? Counsel, there is a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer. Goodness. Utter madness. Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak. This is the last inconsistency, the final piece in the puzzle. If I can successfully make sense of this, the truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the falling knife came into the to be lodged in the victim's back is the book!
Take that!
This, the fourth book found at the scene, is the final piece of evidence the defense will present. Her book. Is that not Mr. Garrideb's book? Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. As we all know. It was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that. Quite so, as part of his wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite side of the road. That's true, however, as part of his testimony, Constable B made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. But, what made you place that book in the victim's hand? Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. When we first ran over to the scene, the evidence was already holding the book. Or whatever. So, when I moved that everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. I'm a very bad policeman. In other words, the victim had already picked the book up of her own volition. And clearly, that must have been before she suffered the knife wound. Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd be doing much of anything. So the question becomes, why did the victim have the book in her hand? By jingo! I think I'm beginning to see what might have happened now. Oh, dearie me. We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Garrideb house onto the pavement below. After precisely that moment, the victim was walking past. Yes, at exactly that moment, the young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her. book I threw. Yes, Mrs. Garrideb, and what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement? Well, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached down and picked up the book. Why does she look so cute in this picture? Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book. Oh heavens. And when the woman reached down to pick the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, Frank, dead. The next object fell from the window above, the jackknife straight into the middle of her back. And at the same time, walking by chance, directly behind Miss Green, was the defendant, Mr. Soseki Natsume. Well, I never. It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman simply collapsed on the floor. In the dark and the fog, he didn't see the knife falling on her from above. The direction. The constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker. So there never was a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place. No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. Actually, see, that's the first time it's happened in this game. Like, it was all purely by accident. It was no, like, actual attempt at murder. And the victim didn't die. So, damn. Okay, that's a first. And that is the real truth behind this case. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb. The very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wondered if perhaps it might have been something like that. There, old bean. Oh, poor Miss Garrideb. Do you think the reason the second game doesn't have any anime cutscenes is because they spent all the money on Joe and Garrideb's face jiggles? Probably, yeah. But the second game doesn't have any cutscenes? Okay. Oh, of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book. And I threw the knife as well. John, dear. It's all right, I know. I'm ever so sorry. Truly. I'm sorry. Oh, God, my knee. All of this because of a misunderstanding. Jeez. Lord Van Zeeks, what's the news of Mrs. Garrideb? She's been taken into the infirmary. It would appear that the deranged events had left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she must recover in due course. There is no cause for concern. Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could have easily been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to repair themselves for the consequences of their actions. It's not involuntary manslaughter, but I guess it would be like negligence or something. Can't remember what it's actually called in a law speak, but yeah. There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon. It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we never once met her. How wonderful. The woman is out of danger, it seems. Yes, that is good news. And then we'll meet her in the future, I bet. She becomes important later. And she's actually a villain, and she should have died in this instance. Otherwise, the next case wouldn't have happened. Kind of deal. So, Mr. Saseki Natsume. Yes? He hasn't actually been on the stand at all, this guy. On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I'd like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your own distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, and have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies. No, it's me who should be begging for your pardon. Oh no, Mr. Natsume. That evening, when the young woman was just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusions again in my confusion. What conclusion, sir? I was sure that the woman was dead. Yes, Constable Beach said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she had been killed, too. I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless. It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now, but I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog, like they're haunting me. Poor Saseki-san. His imagination really got his better of him. Yes, poor man. So, when it happened, I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should have never have dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, or for a doctor, for the police. Instead, I managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires. And for that, I am truly sorry. One could easily say that some sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by this spirit and led to false conclusions. But thanks to Lord Van Zeeks and a young lawyer here from the east, the chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both. He's being so profound. This judge is a lot more profound than the main one. Oh! Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. In conclusion of this trial, I must ask one last time for your decision regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court? As for the foreman of this jury, I can assure you we've reached a fair and just conclusion. I do declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't expect the woman next to me, that's for sure. Sitting in for the old beam while she's out of action, you know? But I know what her decision would be. Does this mean I'll finally be able to get out of here before work? Well, it's about time. I say, I've got a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I? And then... Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Yay, I win! Imagine if they all missed and they just hit the judge, though. Feel bad for his beard at that point. Very well. Mr. Seki Natsume, I here pronounce you dead. Not guilty. Woo! Fireworks, yay! And then the whole building catches on fire because you shouldn't let off fireworks indoors. Do you think you can legally tell that story? I don't think so, too. I think there's like a time period you have to wait. And finally, Mr. Natsume. Oh, yes, Lord, sir. You are now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me. That could be taken either way, man. Oh, yes, sir. Of course. On my life. I swear I'll never set foot in the courtroom again. I'm transported 2 tiers. Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned. Yay! 20th of February, 3:17 p.m. Old Bailey. Defendants, antechamber. Oh, locum. Wait, you mean me? Of course! Is there another locum here? Is there even one? Well, compared to the original locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it? What's wrong with not using my actual name? Oh, at last! I'm free! I'm free! Joyful, joyous, jubilant jubilation! Hearty, hearty happiness, hurrah! Oh, I'm pleased. Mr. Natsumi's delighted. Would it be so hard to just say that, then? Locum, you did it! You saved me from the brink! Well, what happened to the poor woman was no way your fault, after all. I'm just glad everyone can see that now. No, not that! The lovely, loyal locum lawyer! Yes? I mean, as I said before, I've just never gotten used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners. I see towering brick buildings. And from high up windows, I see them looking down on me, laughing. Look at that little hunchback. Oh dear. I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume. But today, you, locum lawyer, gave me my gloom to boot. Or the boot. You stood firm against the bar on your bench before all those babbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. And when I beheld the blinding fireworks firing from the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold, the best barrister ever born!" Well, that's very flattering, and we're pleased to have it for you. This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount to my old friends back in Japan. An anecdote? Is that what's to become of all my hard work? Oh, there you are, my dear fellows. Oh, it's you! Okay. I apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning. Oh, Mr. Shows, what a pleasure to see you. I see I'm here not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say. Oh? The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo, and I wish you the very best of luck. It's just finished. What? No! Then my haste was in vain? Ah! It's you, Herlock Sholmes! Oh, have we met, sir? This is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes? Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom, either by your bleak lodgings or that prison cell. I simply couldn't play that curious face in the light. Sholmes' jump scare. It pretty much is. He just comes out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting to see him. Charming. This is all your fault, Herlock Sholmes. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. My apologies, sir, but I assure you, I have placed you now. You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, aren't you not? Had she been taken to the hospital more urgently, I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now. Oh. But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human after all, and anyone who could have been shaken by such an experience. I do feel very badly about how I behaved. Well, never mind. Now then, what was it you wanted to say to me, sir? He literally diffused that whole entire situation. Nothing. Priceless. Oh, I'm sorry. Really, but that was quite priceless. Poor Sozeki-san. Still, on the bright side, you have an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And, it would seem, you were not even found guilty. But there is no bright side. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume? Even after this, I'm still cursed. By the spirits and now by the Reaper! Ah, Lord Van Zieks. I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed. It will be all right, Mr. Natsume. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I'll protect you. Yeah. What? Why'd you throw me? With a perfectly executed Susato takedown. Much as I like being turned on my head, a bit of warning might be nice next time, Mr. Susato. We're going to get another cutscene where he's on fire as well now? So, Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan. Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon. Oh? It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here, and the city is shaped. And I've become to realize that it is my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it. That's very touching, Mr. Natsume. Or in perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse. That's not it at all! The more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling claws at my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own. Oh, I see. A work of literature by Saseki-san would be an interesting read. Hint, hint, read the real book. And what about Mr. Zato and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry, what about us? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot? Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London, and only now does it feel like we finally found our feet. And you are accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not? That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I've calculated we only can afford 10 nights before the entire budget is exhausted. Well then, you could take my lodgings. Oh, the windowless room? Ah, but what it lacks in windows, it more than makes up with the floor, ceiling, and walls. Hooray. And of course, I'm happy to leave behind the accursed evil spirit. Oh my, an evil spirit? Oh yeah, let's just take this guy's room with all those books and spirits that he says are there. Oh yes, it tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call. We'll think about it, if that's all right. Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me? Really? Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself. Although it's up to in the attic, I might add. Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft? I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. So it's a foregone conclusion. You're going to live with me now. You're my family. I have adopted you into my family now. Welcome to the Shomes home. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of. Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honor to be invited to take in lodging in the great detective's office's attic. I'm too overcome for words. So suggesting we look elsewhere is out of the question. Then it's settled. Iris will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsume, I insist. I don't know what to say, but thank you, but yes. Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsume. It shan't take long. Somebody's happy. Locum, I knew you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London. Likewise, Mr. Natsume. It's been a privilege meeting you too. It's a shame that we're going to have to say goodbye so soon. Well, I've come to realize that I belong in Japan. But, Locum, we'll meet again one day, in the sequel. Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then, I'll be a successful lawyer. Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author. Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, Mr. Sholmes. I've little doubt Mr. Natsume will be released in time for dinner this evening. Oh god, he's gonna die. He's gonna die! And so, the Suzeki-san's innocence successfully established. We rode Mr. Sholmes to what was to become our new home, 221 B. Baker Street. The line child Athena had about fixing. Oh, this is actually kind of cozy up here. Jeez, wish I had an attic like this. 20 February, 4:41 p.m. The attic room. Oh, yeah, I know what scene you're talking about now. Yeah, that was kind of morbid, wasn't it? So this is to be our new office, yes. Our office? I'd rather like the sound of that. Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it? I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step. But I'd like to think we're getting a little closer to your stream now. So, my dear fellow, do you like the place? Oh, he's not wearing a coat! Oh, God! I kind of think he needs the hat. I think the hat helps his look a lot. He's not bad. He doesn't look that bad without a coat on. Oh, Mr. Sholmes. Yes, thank you so much. It's a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it. Good, I'm pleased to hear. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you. I have to remember what the voice I give to her. I'm just going to see if I can remember what I'm doing. I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsume arrives. We'll have a lot to celebrate. Iris, you must let me help you. Alright then, Susie. You can be in charge of the salad. Splendid. So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel? To have your own office in the capital. It's very exciting, actually. Can't help wondering what adventures await us. And those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is. Sorry? London is a glorious place, full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights cast the darkest of shadows. Oh, wow! I said it before he even said it! I knew who was going to say it! Oh! Because that was actually a thing I was thinking of the day before, about something completely irrelevant. But Jesus! I am Sherlock Holmes. Sholmes. Herlock. Whatever. Shadows? What do you mean? Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So once again, Mr. Naruhodo. Welcome to London. And yes, there's a child cooking for 5 people now. Of course, at the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke. But it wasn't long before my turn came. To lift the facade and see the true depths of the murk that lay behind it. Yay! Case number 4 done. Yeah! Save. That is the Clouded Kokoro done. We shall end this off with a peek into the next case. The Hound of the Baskervilles. I know that book. I read that one. I don't remember a lot of it, but I remember The Hound of the Baskervilles. It was one of my favorites. All right, let's have a look into this episode 5. A hound it was, but not such a hound of any mortal has ever seen. His eyes glowed with a smouldering glare. The whole of his upside body was outlined in white-hot flames.
It's coming! Sholmes's cry pierced through the thick wall of fog around us. Wisps of vapor flowed over the pistol as I cocked it, and I waited, breathlessly, in the stillness. The silence lasted for what seemed an eternity, until, at last, it appeared. From the shadows of the cloud, an enormous beast sprang out upon us. A hound it was, but not such a hound as any mortal has ever seen. Its eyes glowed with a smoldering glare. The whole of its ox-sized body was outlined in white-hot flames. Its rumbling pant and hideous howl, so terrified was I that I began to tremble with fear.
I don't want to read this again. Now let's bring it up again.
Holmes declared, gazing upon the mystical beast. For this is the diabolical hound of the Baskervilles.
I think the thing that I remember the most about it is how it described things in that in that book. It was very vivid. It was very good. I could actually feel like I was in the moors when I was reading it. I was like, that's cool. But that is where we'll stop for today. Next time we'll be going through the Hound of the Baskervilles, so that's gonna be fun. And yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this one. Like I said, I've read the book. I don't remember all of it. It was a while ago, but I'm looking forward to doing it again so I can recapture the glory of the book in game form. But yes, that's what we'll stop for today. So thank you all for joining. Hope everyone enjoyed. This game is pretty fun. As usual, if you have not already, like, follow, subscribe, do those bell notifications and all that, so you know when I next stream. And if you want to help support me, link to Patreon and tips. And if you do become a patron, you get your name added to the patron list here, where I give you a shout out at the end of the stream, like I do with Hiro Kuni, the Swordmaster37, and Rafatron2000. And thank you for the continued support. I greatly appreciate you all. And we managed to win a case once again to become a true lawyer. This time the guy, there was no sign or scene to show that the guy died in some mysterious way. Just that he hasn't shown up for dinner yet. So we'll find out what happens to him next. But yeah, thank you all for joining today. I hope you all enjoyed. Any newcomers that came today, it was good to see you. Hope you were enjoyed and will stick around for the future streams. I'll be back tomorrow with Dying Light for anyone who wants to continue watching that. For this, I'll be back on Tuesday for Great Ace Attorney next week. So look forward to that. And yeah. Thank you again for joining. I'll see you all tomorrow or next week. You all take care. Have a nice rest of the day. And yeah, thanks for joining. Until next time, everyone. Bye, everyone. Bye, Rafatron. Bye, Baloroth. Thanks for joining. It was fun. See ya.